Hey guys, who is live with me right now? Please tell me quickly in the chat box. Who is live with me right now? Please tell me in the chat box. We'll start within just a minute. Just confirm. Can you please confirm me if my audio and video both are visible and properly working? Whether my audio and video both are working properly, can you please confirm? Can anybody please confirm in the chat box? Because I can see over here there is some streaming issue in terms of video. I don't know. Can you please confirm with me? Can you please confirm to me in the chat box immediately, guys? So we have to start off with the session now. We are done with SA 700 majority part in the yesterday's revision session. So we have to continue that and immediately finish up this particular chapter in terms of SA 705 and 706, which is very, very important for your examination purpose. So we have to work on that. Please immediately tell me in the chat box if I'm audible as well as visible. I don't know. Yesterday also there was issue with respect to chat box. I don't know whether that issue is continuing or not, because I can see here you are watching the lecture. Okay, fine, no issues. So guys, quickly we covered yesterday about the very important part, elements of the audit report, and before that certain important theoretical questions as well. So out of these elements, there were very important questions were about the 5 things that has to be covered in the opinion paragraph. After that, basis for opinion para, 4 important points to be covered. After that, about the auditor's responsibility section and the management responsibility section, we covered the basic management responsibilities, FS, internal controls, plus what the second point was, assessment of the going concern and basis for accounting, proper assumption. Then after that, we covered we have to obtain the representations as well. So if the management is not present for all the previous periods where they have rectified certain misstatements of the previous periods in the current year, as a comparative information getting affected, then in that scenario you have to obtain the special representation. And after that, guys, if the current management was not there, still you have to obtain the representation from the current management. Okay, if the persons who are looking ahead for the oversight of the financial reporting process are different than the management, then you have to refer those persons in your auditor's responsibilities para, and you have to change in this particular management responsibility para, and you have to change the title of the management responsibility to what? Responsibilities of management, including what? Your TCWG. So you have to refer to TCWG as well in the heading of this particular section. I hope you guys are clear. Next point was about the auditor's responsibilities para. We covered certain points. In very first basic responsibility section, we covered the 3 points are there. Very first, it was about the auditor's objectives according to SA 200. 2 objectives: reasonable assurance that the FS are free from material misstatement. Second, the reporting perspective. Then second point was about the reasonable assurance is the highest level of assurance, not a guarantee. And the third one was about the misstatements that could be material that could arise from fraud or error. Okay, so that could be either consider material if that are affecting the economic decisions of what users of financial statements. And the second point was about the definition or description of the materiality has to be given as according to applicable financial reporting framework. We covered that one as well. The further auditor's responsibility para has to give the description about what? Very first, professional skepticism, and have maintained the and work on what? Professional judgment, and maintains the professional skepticism throughout the audit period. The second thing, auditor's responsibilities with respect to 5 points. Very first one, identify assessment of ROMM SA 315. Second, obtain the understanding of IC system of business. Third one, evaluate appropriateness of accounting policies. Fourth one, appropriateness of management use of going concern. Fifth one, overall presentation structure and content of FS. And the last point, third, responsibility about the group audit if it is applicable. And the last section of auditor's responsibilities, very first, communication with TCWG about the planned scope and timing. After that, significant deficiencies in internal control and other observations in the financial statements audit. After that, if there is a listed entity, then auditor has to provide TCWG with a statement of compliance with ethical requirements and responsibilities. And in case of listed entities, if the auditor has given any of the key audit matters, then that has to be confirmed to what the that has to be communicated to the TCWG for that as well. So location, this question was there in July 21. I'll not go towards that particular point. Now I am coming to very important part. 705 we covered in the last lecture yesterday itself. So in this 705, I was about to cover this particular paragraphs structure. Guys, please work on this particular thing. You might get some question, that case scenario about this is what the auditor's opinion has been there. So please draft, or you have to write down the language for that particular thing. Okay. Hello Uday. So this language has to be very much clear for every kind of opinion. So guys, please understand this and immediately revise this along with me. Okay. So very first thing, whenever you are qualifying or modifying the opinion in the auditor's report, what do you have to do? Guys, please tell me quickly. You have to amend the heading of what your opinion para. So as applicable, so if you are giving qualified opinion, then heading would be qualified opinion. Same way, adverse opinion or disclaimer of opinion. Okay. In case of qualified opinion, now that qualified opinion can be there in two cases. First, you have the sufficient appropriate audit evidence and you have identified the material misstatements which are not pervasive. Second thing, you are unable to obtain the sufficient appropriate audit evidence, and the possible effect could be material but not pervasive. In that scenario, again qualified opinion. So what shall be your wording of this particular para? Very first thing, whatever you are giving the opinion, that paragraph should include such wordings that our financial audited financial statements shows the true and fair view, but except for the effects of matters described in the basis for qualified opinion section. Guys, come on, your opinion would be true and fair, but only the exceptions would be there, because of which exceptions you are providing the qualified opinion. Are you getting my point? So this exception wording should be there, very important. Except for in the auditor's opinion, except for the effects of the matters described in the basis for qualified opinion section, if there is a fair presentation framework, then your wording will continue from here. The accompanying financial statements present fairly in all material respects or give a true and fair view in accordance with the applicable financial reporting framework. Clear with this? In case of compliance framework, very easy. The accompanying financial statements has been prepared in all material respects in accordance with the AFRF. So are you guys clear? In qualified opinion, you have to start the wording with what you are, except for the effects of matters described in the basis for qualified opinion section, the accompanying financial statements present fairly in all material respect or give a true and fair view, and follows what? In accordance with the applicable FRF. The next was about the adverse opinion. In this adverse opinion, what do you have to use the wording? Because of the significance of matters described in the basis for adverse opinion section. This is important. Because of the significance of matters described in the basis for adverse opinion section, if there is a fair presentation framework, then accompanying financial statements do not present fairly. This is important one. Do not present fairly. Here you were talking about that fair presentation is there, true and fair view is there, but only for what? Other than those which have been mentioned in the basis for qualified opinion section. Okay. Here you are stating that since it is adverse, pervasive impact, affecting a lot of assertions on the financial statements, then you are giving directly that do not present fairly. Do not present fairly. Clear with this? And in case of disclaimer, since we were not able to obtain the sufficient appropriate audit evidence, state that auditor does not express an opinion on the accompanying FS. We are not able to provide any opinion. Second thing, because of the significance of matters described in basis for disclaimer of opinion section, the auditor has not been able to obtain the SAI to provide a basis for audit opinion on the FS. And the last one, amend the statement as required by AC 700 which indicates that the FS have been audited to state that auditor was engaged to audit the financial statement. Please, we have understood that in case of opinion section, we have to state that we have audited the financial statement. Do you guys remember? Opinion section, 5 points to be covered. Very first, it was identify the entities. Second, state that you have conducted the audit. But now we used to start the wording from we have audited the financial statements of XYZ Limited. Now we have audited. This wording should be replaced with what? We were engaged to perform the audit. Please understand. Auditor was engaged to perform. Clear with this? Both pervasive and material. Yes. So clear with this? We were engaged to perform. So this wording would be definitely changing here. I hope you guys are absolutely clear. Auditor was engaged to audit irrespective of, instead of what? Auditor audited. We have audited. No, don't. We have not yet audited. Why? Because we were not able to obtain the SI. And the impact is pervasive. Since impact is pervasive, affecting a lot of assertions, we have to use the wording of what? We were engaged to audit. We were engaged to perform the audit of what? Financial statement. Clear? Now, in case of modification of opinion, you have to amend the heading of what? Again, basis for opinion section as well, in line with what? Your opinion section. So opinion section, qualified, adverse, you have to mention separately. Same way, basis for opinion section, then basis for either qualified, basis for adverse opinion, basis for disclaimer of opinion. That's it, nothing else. Now, considerations in case of disclaimer of question, please mark this one as the important one from your examination perspective. Important thing to be taken care of. Please, guys, come on. So the auditor's report shall not include a key audit matters section in accordance with SA 701 in case you are providing disclaimer of opinion. Why so? Because very first thing, disclaimer is coming only when you don't have sufficient appropriate audit evidence, and the second thing, you are basically providing such impact, such a possible effect which is pervasive. So if you don't have SI, you are not able to identify material misstatement, and the second thing, you are just gazing, you are just anticipating the possible effect of that, and possible effect comes out to be the pervasive, so means affecting a lot of assertions. Now itself indicates there is a huge basically what your misstatements are there, could be there. Okay, huge flow. So huge flow. Now there is no need of key audit matter section, and that's why they are saying if you are providing disclaimer of opinion section, your auditor's report shall not include what? Your CAMCA section. Second thing, amend the auditor's responsibilities para to include only the following. Please understand, you don't have to include everything in case of what? Disclaimer of opinion section, whatever we learned just before some time. Amend the auditor's responsibility para to include only the following. These three things has to be included. Very first, a statement that the auditor's responsibility to conduct the audit of entities FS in accordance with standards and to issue an auditor's report. So it is nothing but what? Your basic auditor's responsibility. Second, a statement that because of the matters described in the basis for disclaimer of opinion section, auditor was not able to obtain SI to provide a basis for audit opinion. The last one, statement about the auditor's independence and ethical responsibilities as required by SA 700. Clear with this? Absolutely clear. Very important question. Considerations in case of disclaimer. Very first, do not include the audit matter. Second thing, include only three things in your auditor's responsibility para. Very first, to conduct the audit in accordance with standards on auditing and issue the audit report. Second thing, a statement that matters described in basis for qualified opinion, disclaimer of opinion section, auditor was not able to obtain the SI to provide the basis of opinion. And the last one, statement about the independence and following of what? Ethical responsibilities. I hope you guys are absolutely clear. Clear with this? Any issues? Any queries? And whenever you expect to modify the opinion, we have already discussed yesterday. Whenever you expect to modify the opinion in the auditor's report, auditor has to communicate with TCWG the circumstances. Why you are modifying the opinion, and the last one, expected modification and wording of that modification. So you have to provide the reasons, the circumstances which led to that modification, and the second thing as well, the wording of the modification. I hope you guys are clear. That's it for 705. Now let's discuss 706. 706 talk about emphasis of matter and other matter paragraph. Very important difference between two things. Emphasis of matter, a paragraph where you are referencing to those particular disclosures which are already presented fairly in the financial statement. Are you guys getting my point? But only since you find those particular disclosures in the FS relevant and most important from the perspective of users of FS to bring their attention to those notes to accounts, you are providing the reference of that notes of financial statements in your this particular para, which is known as emphasis of matter paragraph. I hope you guys are absolutely clear. Sir, this slide, study material, I'm not getting what you want to say. I'm not getting what you want to say. Okay, I'll move ahead. No issues. Please tell me. Please explain, Uday. Otherwise, we can connect later after this session. Okay. Okay. So, in emphasis of matter para, a matter although appropriately presented or disclosed in the FS, that is of such importance that it is the fundamental to the user's understanding of FS. Okay. So, it is already there. Look at this. This is the definition, very important, SA 706. Look at this. A paragraph included in the auditor's report that refers to a matter. This is very important. Refers to a matter appropriately presented or disclosed in the financial statements, that in the auditor's judgment is of such importance that it is fundamental to the users. Beta, it is audit report, na? How can you ask this particular question? Audit report ना, SA 706. भैया बहुत ज्यादा पढ़ाई कर ली क्या आज? ऐसे कैसे हो रहा है आपके साथ? प्लीज ऐसे मत करो. ठीक है, कोई इशू नहीं. चलो, so let's continue. Okay, it's audit report. Immediately स्टडी मटेरियल में जाके देख लो ऑडिट रिपोर्ट. यू आर फॉलोइंग ओल्ड कोर्स स्टडी मटेरियल ना, दैट्स व्हाई आई एम नॉट एबल टू. इट्स ओके उदय, नो इश्यूज, डोंट बी सॉरी, कोई दिक्कत नहीं है, होता है कभी कभी. चलो गाइस, कम ऑन. सो लेट्स कंटिन्यू. एम्फासिस ऑफ मैटर, a paragraph included in the auditor's report, second, refers to a matter that have been appropriately presented or disclosed in the FS, and the third thing, in the auditor's judgment is of such importance that it is fundamental to the user's understanding of FS. Okay. Other matter paragraph exactly opposite to this, that have not been presented or disclosed in the FS, but you find that particular observations matters to be important from the perspective of the users of FS. So look at this. A paragraph included in the auditor's report that refers to a matter other than those presented and disclosed in the FS, and in the auditor's judgment relevant to the user's understanding of audit, auditor's responsibilities and auditor's report. This is very important. These are the matters which relates to the user's understanding of the audit, users understanding of the audit, after that auditor's responsibilities and auditor's report. Clear with this? But these have not been presented in the financial statements. Are you guys clear with this? Perfect. Other than this, so then what is the difference between key audit matter and this? Very important difference. These matters are related to such. These matters are related to such. There is no need that you have communicated this particular matter to TCWG. There is a need of communication of the matter to the TCWG in case of CAM. So you will be finding out, you will be selecting the key audit matters only from those matters which you have communicated to the TCWG. Clear? Clear with this? So you are selecting key audit matters only from such matters which you have already communicated to the TCWG. The second thing, here in other matter paragraph, that is not the condition. The second thing is there, here you will be selecting such matters which are relevant for the user's understanding with respect to what? Understanding of the audit. Second thing, auditor's responsibilities, and the third thing, auditor's report. I hope you guys are absolutely clear with this. Okay, let's move it. Okay. If the auditor considers it necessary to draw the user's attention to a matter presented or disclosed in FS, then they will be using this particular paragraph of emphasis of matter according to SA 706. But very important, there are two conditions. Only if, this is very important, only if, very first, no need of modification is there, and if SA 705 applies, 701 applies key audit matter, and you have selected that particular matter as a key audit matter already and presented that in key audit matter section, then you cannot include that again in your emphasis of matter paragraph. So first priority, modification of opinion arises because of that or not? If yes, modify the opinion. Your EOM para is not an alternative to the modification of opinion. Very much clear? Okay, sir, no issues. And a modified opinion is there. We don't need to modify the opinion in accordance with 705 and in accordance with 700. Okay, so we don't need to modify the opinion. Now what shall happen? Then select whether that is a key audit matter according to 701. If it is a key audit matter, include that in CAM. Don't include in EOM. If it is not if it has not been selected as a key audit matter, then you can consider it to in what your emphasis of matter para. Are you guys clear? Perfect. Other matter para, very good. Uday, we learned that today itself in our regular course. In other matter paragraph, you can relate to the one of the example of what your 299 essay number 299 joint auditors report. Joint auditors report. If there is separate report by joint auditors because of any of the disagreements, then in that scenario every joint auditors report has to refer to that separate report has been issued by other joint auditor in their audit report of what? Other matter paragraph section. Clear with this? So guys, please remember, I am repeating this particular point, very important, and thanks to you Uday, he has given this particular example. We learned this today itself in our regular class. So essay 299 joint auditors, you can consider this example again, very important. 299 joint auditor, if the joint auditors are disagreeing with each other with respect of certain matters, in case of audit opinion or something else, then they can issue the separate audit report. Okay, basically common audit report, but in such case of disagreements there can be the separate audit reports, and now each audit report has to refer to the another audit report in what? Their other matter paragraph section, that because of which circumstances this particular separate report has been issued by Mr. XYZ whatever, the other joint auditor. Clear with this? Very important. Sure. Let's consider this. So very important thing, firstly the modification. EOM is not an alternative for modification of opinion. And the second thing very important, आर्टिजन CMA इंटर का लिए भी यूजफुल है क्या सर? Yes, majorly CMA इंटर के लिए भी यूजफुल है. You can obviously attend this particular thing, no issues about that. Okay, majorly I can say CMA इंटर के लिए भी यूजफुल है, don't worry about it. Okay, ऐसे 701 company audit we will cover by tomorrow. Company audit we will cover tomorrow. Aarti, please attend tomorrow's session. It will be 100% relevant for CMA Inter. Okay. So now, come on. Sorry, not tomorrow. Okay. I'll cover company audit tomorrow. I have told already that chapter 3, but okay, we will cover company audit in tomorrow's session. Since I have now communicated that one. Okay. So you can attend tomorrow company audit revision. 100%. Now also you can continue this particular thing. It is relevant for CMA Inter as well. Don't worry. Now, so EOM para is not basically the alternative for what your modification of opinion essay 701. Very important. Next one, what are the examples of circumstances where auditor may consider it necessary to include the EOM para? So examples, very first, uncertainty to the future outcome of exceptional litigation or regulatory action. Clear? The next thing, significant subsequent event as per essay 560. If you guys remember, essay 560, significant subsequent event has been occurred between the date of FS and the date of auditor's report. That could be another example for what your emphasis of matter paragraph. Early application of new accounting standard. So Index 115 came into picture from last year. Last 2 years, basically 2-3 years. It was effective from 2018 itself, ideally. So what happened with this particular thing, when anybody is adopting the new accounting standard well before its effective date, it is possible. It is not effective for everybody from day one. Okay, so well before if you are actually adopting, then you can include that particular thing as a emphasis of matter, as an important matter to be concluded in the emphasis of matter paragraph. And the next thing, major catastrophe that has or continues to have a significant effect on the entity's financial position. So again, you can include this in the emphasis of matter paragraph. 4 points, very important for your examination. Okay, next important thing, guys, come on. Now look at this, very important. Emphasis of matter paragraph is not a substitute for what we discussed right now before some minutes. that was about the auditor shall include an emphasis of matter paragraph only if these two conditions have been satisfied. So obviously these 2 points would be there in substitute as well, but along with this there would be additional 1 point of going concern SA 570. I hope you guys are absolutely clear. So emphasis of matter paragraph, 2 condition. First one, no modification. Second one, if the matter has been selected as 701 key audit matter, then do not include in EOM para. And now the EOM is not a substitute for very first modification of opinion as discussed earlier. Second thing, disclosures in the FS, very important. Disclosures in the FS, if anything has to be disclosed by management in the financial statements in accordance with applicable financial reporting framework, management cannot take emphasis of matter as a basis or as a substitute for their disclosure in the FS. Very important question for examination. There could be a case scenario where they will ask, that this is what occurred. Now auditor has selected certain XYZ matter to be disclosed in the emphasis of matter paragraph. Now the management is asking that whether they can actually remove the disclosure of that particular XYZ matter from the financial statement, since the auditor has already included the reference of that in EOM para. Obviously you can say to management that guys, please don't do this stupidity. Why? Because it is your responsibilities according to applicable financial reporting framework to include that as a part of notes to accounts, as a part of financial statement. So you have to follow your responsibility as per applicable financial reporting framework. As an auditor, we have selected and we have to follow our responsibility, because EOM para is not a substitute for what? Disclosures in the FS. The third thing, it is not a substitute for the opinion which has to be disclosures, which has to be given according to SA 570, which relates to going concern. I hope you guys are clear. Very first, it is not a substitute for modified opinion. Second, it is not a substitute for disclosures in the FS as required by management in accordance with applicable financial reporting framework. And the third thing, it is not a substitute for reporting in accordance with SA 570 going concern. If you remember, there was a separate paragraph after basis for opinion section for the going concern, and that was there only if required according to SA 570. So if it is required as per SA 570, you have to include that particular matters in SA 570, and you cannot consider it to be the in emphasis of matter and ignore 570 para. Okay, clear? These 3 things again very important for your examination. Please prepare very well. Okay, the next thing, other matter paragraph, we have already discussed. Other matter paragraph has to be included provided, again 2 conditions of other matter para. Very first, it is not prohibited by the law and regulation, and the second thing, if it is a key audit matter, then it will not be a part of your other matter paragraph. Now what are the key audit matters? Very important definition for examination, guys, come on. Key audit matters are such matters. Key audit matters, very good Uday. Key audit matters are such matters which are in the auditor's professional judgment of most significance. In auditor's professional judgment, those matters are of most significance of the current period financial statements, guys, please, which relates to the current period financial statements. And the third thing, that are selected from the matters communicated to the with the TCWG. These are the matters which are selected only out of such matters which have been already communicated to the TCWG. Sir, why we need to communicate? That has been given in essay number, please tell me, essay 260, essay 260 and 265 in case of deficiencies in internal controls. I hope you guys are absolutely clear. So most significant matters in accordance with the as per auditor's professional judgment and selected out of the matters which were already communicated to the TCWG in accordance with essay 260 or and 265. What is the purpose of this camp? To enhance the communicative value of the auditor's report. If you remember, Uday, we have discussed this particular wording ka meaning as well. Why communicative value? How the communicative value will be enhanced? Okay, this is not a time to discuss that particular thing, but I just remember and that's why given reference. Okay, so now how the camps will be determined? The most important question for your examination, one of the most important, please mark it as a BER. How the auditor will determine a particular matter to be key audit matter. How the auditor will determine the particular matter to be key audit matter? Very first thing, These all key audit matters will be out of matters communicated to the TCWG. Again and again I am saying that thing, very important. Come on. Now, very first thing that you need to cover in order to determine a matter to be key audit matter, that whether that matter is of areas of higher assessed ROMM in accordance with SA 315 or the significant risk. So if the risk assessment level is higher or significant, you can consider it to be the key audit matter, guys. Come on. If there is any lower risk element, lower risk material, if there is any matter which relates to lower risk in accordance with 315, whatever you have assessed in planning section, in risk assessment procedure section, you cannot consider it to be the key audit matter because you have already determined it to be the lower risk, and then it doesn't become your significant important matter. Are you guys getting my point? So only if your risk assessment level is of higher or significant risk. Second point, if in accordance with the auditor judgment, that judgment, significant judgments with respect to what? Such areas of financial statements where that includes the management judgment, significant management judgments, including the accounting estimates that have been identified as the high estimation uncertainty. Very, very good. Not just high area risk, you have to include high as well as significant risk. Come on, areas of higher assessed risk as well as significant risk as per SA 315, whatever you have identified while performing risk assessment procedure. Guys, come on, as per risk assessment procedure 315 SA, you have already performed that while planning section. Now the second thing, significant auditor judgments that relates to such areas of judgments where includes the significant management judgment. The second thing, including accounting estimates and that have been identified to be the areas of high estimation uncertainty. And the third thing, the effect on the audit of significant events or transactions that occurred during the year. So these are the three things that have to be considered for this particular point. If any of the matter that has been communicated to the TCWG belongs to any of these 3 points, you can consider it to be the key audit matter. That's it. Okay. Very first, higher or significant assessed ROMM according to 315 while performing risk assessment procedure. Second, significant auditor judgments related to areas which includes the significant management judgments, including accounting estimates that have been considered to be the high estimation uncertainty. And the third thing, significant events or transactions that occurred during the audit period and the impact of that is material. Very important. Okay. Okay, clear with this. The basic principles of 701 with respect to key audit matters, appropriate subheading has to be there of this particular section and a separate section has to be there for the key audit matters, as we have already covered in 700 elements of audit report. Introductory language should include, explain that what are the key audit matters. These are the matters that in auditor's professional judgment most significance and matters addressed in the context of as a whole informing the auditor's opinion does not provide a separate opinion on these matters. Very important. You have to clearly mention that key audit matters are such matters in professional judgment, the basic meaning of that key audit matters. And the second very important thing, this is not a separate opinion, guys. Come on, this is not a separate opinion. This do not have any modification impact, and that's what we will cover over here. It is not a substitute for disclosures, substitute for the modified opinion, substitute for the 570 going concern, and not a separate opinion. Are you guys clear? Please, please, please mark this particular point to be again the important for your examination. Communicating key audit matters is not a substitute for disclosures in FS, not a substitute for a modified opinion, not a substitute for 570 going concern different paragraph, and not a substitute, not a separate opinion as well on the FS. These 4 points are very, very important. Are you guys clear? So you might again get the case scenario in the same way as we discussed while emphasis of matter. So management wants to disclose that management have already included certain disclosures in FS in accordance with AFRF. But since the auditor considered particular matter that was already forming the part of financial statements, turns out to be the key audit matter in accordance with 701. Now, whenever auditor has identified certain matters to be key audit matters, auditor has to communicate that to TCWG. Sir, these are the matters which we have identified to be key audit matters, and we will be including these matters in our auditor's report. And this would be the expected wording of that particular disclosure in the audit report. So now TCWG is asking the auditor that since you have included this particular matter in your audit report particular section, then why we need to again that reflect that particular thing? Why we need to show that in our FS? We will remove that from FS. Please stop there. Stop them and tell, sir, it is your responsibility according to applicable FRF to provide the disclosure in FS. You follow your responsibility, I'll follow my responsibility. Clear with this? Okay. So you have to still disclose in your financial statements. Who will tell this? Auditor to the management. And auditor in accordance with the SA 701, he will disclose that in the key audit matter section, because as per 701, key audit matters is not a substitute for the disclosures in the financial statement that are applicable according to applicable financial reporting framework. Clear? Again the same thing, not a substitute for the modified opinion. If any matter turns out to be such impact which is material, either pervasive, not pervasive, doesn't matter. If there is a material misstatement, obviously you have to go to 705. Modification is required in audit opinion. Very good. You cannot think about including that matter to be in key audit matter and provide the true and fair view of opinion. No, you have to modify it in accordance with 705. If that matter is not impacting the modification of opinion, then guys you can come here and include that in key audit matter. But again, if according to 570, if you have to give a separate para of going concern uncertainty, material uncertainty with respect to entity's ability to continue as a going concern, very important, you have to give that separate para disclosure in audit report, and you cannot use key audit matter to be substitute for that particular paragraph. And the last one, key audit matter is not a separate opinion, it is just disclosures of most significant matters according to auditor's professional judgment. I hope you guys are absolutely clear with this. And this is how our auditor's report section was there. Audit report chapter is there. Now the last one we have here for SA 710, which discuss about comparative information. Please remember this very important one. Comparative information will have two parts. One, corresponding figures, another comparative financial statements. Come on. So corresponding figures, for corresponding figures, what are the differences between these two things? Corresponding figures and comparative FS. Corresponding figures, auditor's opinion refers to only current period, while in comparative financial statements, auditor's opinion refers to each period for the financial statement. So according to financial reporting framework, we know we have to include at least one comparative period in our financial statements. Management has to include that, entity has to include that. In case you are adopting a new accounting standard or a new accounting framework, so in case of like AS to Ind AS, so in that first year of new adoption of Indian accounting standard, Ind AS, you have to include the two comparative periods in addition to the current period. That example I have already given in regular class, if you guys remember. Okay, so now as an auditor, whatever the periods have been disclosed in the financial statements, you will be referring to each and every period that is being forming part of financial statements. In what? Comparative financial statements. In corresponding figures, your opinion is limited to only current period. Clear with this? Very good. Clear? Perfect. Very good. Chalo. So comparative information. What is comparative information? We are talking about comparative information. Basically, comparative information includes two parts: corresponding figures and comparative FS. So what is comparative information? The amounts or disclosures included in the FS in respect of one or more prior periods in accordance with AE of RF. What are the audit procedures that an auditor has to follow? Very good. Very first thing, auditor has to look at whether this comparative information agrees with the amounts and other disclosures provided in the prior period. So what you will be taking? Very first procedure, audit procedure, common audit procedure. What you will be doing? You will be taking the prior year audited financial statements, and you will compare whether the opening balances of the current period, and the comparative financial information given in the financial statements by the management are matching with what your previous year audited closing figures. Clear with this? Previous year figures are matching with what your current year comparative information is matching with the previous year figures as per auditors audited financial statements. Clear with this? So that you have to check. Please, next thing, accounting policies of comparative period and the current period are consistent. If that are not consistent, if there have been any changes in the accounting policies during the current financial year, then in that scenario, whether the management has included appropriate disclosure with respect to the change in accounting policies, and if the material impact would have been there because of that change in accounting policies, then impact should have been disclosed in the financial statements. Clear with this? Perfect. So that is what auditor will be again checking for this particular point. I hope you guys are absolutely clear with this. So now, corresponding figures definition we have already covered. Comparative information where amounts and other disclosures for the prior period are included as an integral part of the current period and are intended to be read only in relation to the current period figures. The level of detail presented in the corresponding figures and amounts dictated primarily by its relevance to the current period figures only. Okay, clear with this? So the basic difference we already covered over here. Okay, current period only, reference to the current period only by auditor, and in case of comparative FS refers to each and every period in the financial statements. Okay, now very important, auditor's opinion refers to each period in case of comparative financial statements. When comparative financial statements are presented, the auditor's opinion shall refer to each period for which the FS are presented and on which the auditor opinion is expressed. What would be the important from examination perspective? Now this is the point, very important for examination. Mark this as the revision one. Very first, when reporting on prior period financial statements in connection with the current period's audit, reporting on prior period financial statements in connection with the current year audit, if the auditor's opinion on such a prior period financial statements differs from the opinion the auditor previously expressed. So you have provided the unmodified opinion during last year, but during the current year audit you come to know that previous year opinion should have been the modified opinion and probably the qualified opinion as per 705. So now your prior period opinion is changing as compared to what you have previously issued during the last year. Then the auditor shall disclose the substantive reasons for this difference in opinion in other matter paragraph in accordance with 706. Again, the second example of other matter paragraph. I hope you guys are absolutely clear. The first example was of 299 joint auditor. The second example of other matter paragraph is this one. When you are looking at the prior period financial statements audit opinion which was issued already during last year, and if you believe the current year audit, while performing current audit, you come to know that the previous year opinion should have been different. Now you have to give the reasons why there is a difference in the opinion, and along with that the substantive impact of that in the other matter paragraph of current year audit report. Are you guys getting? Current year audit report, you have to include that particular point in other matter paragraph. The second example of other matter paragraph 706. I hope you guys are absolutely clear. Very important guys, come on. These all points are very important. So I will mark this as the BER. You will find at least one or two questions out of this, whatever points I am marking as BER in your examination. It is my challenge. Please understand. Next one. Prior period financial statements audited by a predecessor auditor. So if the auditor would have been different, last year the audit was performed by somebody else, current year we are performing the audit, and now please understand, if the financial statements of prior period were audited by a predecessor auditor, in addition to expressing an opinion in the current period financial statements, the auditor shall state in other matter paragraph, again the example of other matter paragraph, what the auditor will include in other matter paragraph. Please understand. These are the points. Hey guys, come on now. What is happening with me? Yeah. So these are the three things you have to include in other matter paragraph. Very first point, that the financial statements of the prior period were audited by a predecessor auditor. So you have to mention the fact of that. Second, the type of opinion expressed by the predecessor auditor, and if the opinion was modified, then the reasons of that. Last year audit report, if it was modified, the reasons has to be mentioned in current year other matter paragraph along with the type of opinion. The third thing, the date of that report, unless predecessor auditor's report on the prior period FS is revised with the FS. There could be revision in the audit report of prior year. If there would not have been any revision, then what was the original date of issue of audit report, that has to be given in the current year other matter paragraph only when the previous year audit was performed by somebody else as compared to the current year auditor. Are you guys getting my point? Perfect. Clear with this? If the auditor concludes that material misstatement exists that affects the prior period FS on which the predecessor auditor has previously reported without a modification. So, if last year audit was performed by somebody else and the opinion was unmodified, now performing current year audit, you come to know that the opinion should have been qualified or disclaimer or adverse opinion. Now, very important thing you have to understand. Look at this responsibility. The auditor shall communicate the misstatement with the appropriate level of management and TCWG and request the predecessor auditor to change its audit report. Please understand, you have to request to the predecessor auditor, guys, please change your audit reports, please reconsider your audit report. If the prior period financial statements are amended, now we will inform to the management as well, we will inform to the TCWG. Now, if the financial statements were amended, the predecessor auditor and predecessor auditor also agrees to issue a new auditor's report. In that scenario, current year auditor's report will refer to only current period and not the previous year one. Clear with this? Then the current year auditor shall report only on the current period. But if the prior period financial statements were not audited, guys, come on, this is very, very important. You have to remember this because you will find most probably a question from these last 2 points in your coming examination, December 21. So please understand, this is the last point. If the prior period FS were not audited, in that scenario, what? If the prior period FS were not audited, the auditor shall state in an other meta paragraph, the last example of other meta paragraph, the comparative FS are unaudited. Such a statement does not relieve the auditor of the requirement to obtain the SAI that the opening balances do not contain misstatements that materially affect the current period FS. So go to your SA 510 and according to SA 510, you have to perform all your responsibilities in order to ensure that opening balances are free from material misstatement. Are you guys getting my point? Are you guys getting my point? Okay. So this is how our revision for the audit report chapter number 11 gets over. I hope you guys are absolutely clear over this particular chapter. Clear with this? Do you have any question? Do you have any question? Please let me know quickly. Sir, this topic, practical possible? Yes, 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 very much possible. Very much possible, na? Now, please understand. Look at this. We will cover these two illustrations quickly. So, since these are important, please understand quickly. Question number 2, illustration number 2. Since we have 5-10 minutes more. Messrs. Amitabh and Associates are the statutory auditors of Ringston Limited, which is company engaged in the business of manufacture of pen drives. The auditor has started drafting the audit report for FY 2021. CA Amitabh, the engagement partner, is of the view that the FS of the Ringston Limited represent a true and fair view. Give the draft of the opinion para. So there is no change in the opinion. So there is no modification of opinion. So SA 700 normal paragraph heading should be opinion itself only. Okay, fine. So heading is opinion section. Okay. So now you have to include your 5 things. You have to include your 5 things. Very first, identify the entity. Second, state that you have audited the financial statement. Third, identify the financial statements title. Fourth, refer to the notes including significant accounting policies. And fifth, refer to the date as on and period covered by the financial statements audited. So look at this paragraph. We have audited. We have audited. We have audited. So in case of disclaimer of opinion, you will change this to what? We were engaged to audit. Only when what? If there is disclaimer of opinion. This is what I told you na before some time when we were revising the disclaimer of opinion. So because instead of this wording, you will change that to what? We were engaged to audit. We have audited. Now normally this is true and fair view, no disclaimer. So our wording will remain we have audited. The financial statements of what? Identify the entity. Very first point. Then this was second point. State that you have audited. First point, identify the entity which comprise the final balance sheet as at 31st March, statement of P&L and the notes. So third point was financial statement title. Fourth point was refer to the notes and including summary of significant accounting policies. And the last point, date as on and period covered by. So this is what your fifth point. I hope you guys are absolutely clear. Okay, for the year ending as on that, this is what your fifth point again. So now along with that 5 points, you have to include what is your final opinion. In our opinion and to the base of our information and according to the explanations given to us, the aforesaid FS give the information required by the act in the manner so required and give a true and fair view. So this is important. Give a true and fair view in conformity with the accounting principles generally accepted in India. Okay, and as applicable to the entity for the financial statements as at and for the period ended P&L. Okay, same way for basis for opinion para, how the drafting would be there. I am not reading the question because now you should have understood that question is asking you to draft the basis for opinion section. Okay, so in basis for opinion section, you have to include the 4 things. Very first, it was about you have conducted in accordance with the essays. Second, refer to the auditor's responsibility para. Third thing, it was about the independence and what your ethical responsibilities and other ethical requirements. And the last one was about the sufficient appropriate audit evidence was the basis of your every opinion, a conclusion used for the basis for opinion. Clear with this? So these 4 points you just have to compare here along with me in this particular para. Quickly read it out and tell me if you guys have any question over this. Look at this. We have conducted the audit in accordance with the standards on auditing, and please understand the reference would be there of section number 143 subsection 10, because in this section the ICAI standards have been given up with. So the standards which are applicable of auditing are not of NFRA, but those are of ICAI. Those are of which were issued by ICAI. Okay, our responsibilities. So this was the first point. We have followed the standards. Second, our responsibilities under those standards are further described in the auditor's responsibilities para section of our report. So second, reference of this auditor's responsibilities para you have given. Then third point, you have to include this independence in accordance with the code of ethics issued by ICAI together with the ethical requirements that are relevant to the audit under the provisions of Companies Act, and we have fulfilled our other ethical responsibilities in accordance with the code of ethics and other requirements. And this was your third point. And the last point, we believe that the audit evidence we have obtained is sufficient and appropriate to provide a basis for our opinion. So this was the fourth point. Very important. Out of these two, you should probably see a single question in your coming examination. Important one. Okay, I hope you guys are absolutely clear. Apart from this, you can see the management responsibility section. You can see the auditor's responsibility section. You will find these are the illustrations from your ICAI study mat. Okay, very easy. So if you have any queries, please let me know. Guys, there are only 2-3 things. We are having the test series for the new course as well as old course for all the subjects, not just the audit, not just the FM. We have for all the subjects, and there is been good response. You will find all the benefits. You will find the demo answer checking on our application. I have included the files of that, so you can check it out and you can enroll it. For a single group it's costing for 4 subjects of rupees 1000. For both groups it is 2000. Obviously I personally dedicate 1 hour for checking of an entire paper, okay, of 100 marks, and that is I am genuinely talking about it. So you will understand, you will realize if you appear for the test series. Okay, the next thing is about the MCQs. If you want to take a benefit of MCQs question bank, you can obviously go for that. You can check all the details in our application, or you can also visit to the website where all these details have been available with. If you have any queries, you can anyways reach out to me on my personal mobile number, which is reflecting on the screen in the footer section. Okay, yes, so I hope these particular sessions would have been helpful for all of you. 2 hours approximately would have been there for the revision of audit report in maximum possibility, at maximum possible level for all the things. Okay, sir, if joint auditor modify opinion given but one joint auditor gives unqualified opinion, then क्या होगा इस केस में? Oh, very good. बोल रहा है एक जॉइंट ऑडिटर मॉडिफाई करता है ओपिनियन को, दूसरा जॉइंट ऑडिटर अनक्वालिफाइड ओपिनियन देता है, तो इन दैट सिनारियो क्या होगा? सिंपल चीज होगी, सेपरेट ऑडिट रिपोर्ट जाएगा, बाकी कुछ नहीं, बिकॉज जो भी जॉइंट ऑडिटर अपना अपना ओपिनियन देगा वो एक्सप्लेन करेगा इन बेसिस फॉर ओपिनियन सेक्शन कि भाई उसको क्यों ऐसा लगता है, एक को क्यों लगता है कि क्वालिफाइड, एक को क्यों लगता है अनक्वालिफाइड. बेसिकली ये सीन तभी आएगा एक तो देखो different work areas है. Now guys, coming to the point that since this session is completely in English, I'm just giving a reference to a student query. Okay, so don't worry about it. I am explaining in Hindi right now since the question is different and out of track from this particular session. Okay, so now उदय जो आपने क्वेरी पूछा, देखो अलग अलग जॉइंट ऑडिटर है, उसके रिस्पॉन्सिबिलिटीज है जो डिसाइड करी हुई है. सो नाउ इन दैट सिनेरियो क्या होगा, अगर कोई बंदा बोल रहा है मुझे क्वालिफाइड लग रहा है, भाई तू तेरा क्वालिफाइड ओपिनियन दे, सेपरेट ऑडिट रिपोर्ट दे एंड उसके रीजंस मेंशन कर एंड रेफरेंस दे दे अदर मैटर पैराग्राफ में अदर जॉइंट ऑडिटर के रिपोर्ट का. क्लियर. एंड द सेकंड जॉइंट ऑडिटर भी सेम चीज करेगा, उसका सेपरेट रिपोर्ट देगा एंड इन इट्स ऑडिटर रिपोर्ट का अदर मैटर पैराग्राफ ही विल एक्सप्लेन टू द फैक्ट ऑफ द अदर ऑडिट रिपोर्ट. क्लियर विद दिस. तो सेम थिंग जो हमारा जनरल पॉइंट था वही होगा, बाकी कुछ नहीं होगा. ठीक है. क्लियर विद दिस. क्लियर विद दिस क्या, क्लियर विद दिस क्या. आइडियली ऐसा नहीं होना चाहिए क्योंकि साहब रिस्पॉन्सिबिलिटीज बाइफोकेटेड रहते हैं. जब भी बोल रहे हैं कि कोई क्वालिफाइड दे रहा है, कोई अनमोडिफाइड दे रहा है, तो वो एक ओवरऑल पिक्चर कंसीडर करके दे रहा है. बट कभी कभी क्या हो सकता है कि देयर कुड बी सिनारियो कि कोई एरिया में इसको मटेरियल मिसस्टेटमेंट मिला एक जॉइंट ऑडिटर को और उसको लग रहा है कि भाई ये मटेरियल मिसस्टेटमेंट है तो मॉडिफाइड देना जरूरी है. बट एट द सेम टाइम द अदर ऑडिटर इज नॉट फॉलोइंग दैट पर्टिकुलर थिंग एंड उसको लग रहा है कि ये मटेरियल मिसस्टेटमेंट नहीं है, इसकी वजह से कुछ इंपैक्ट नहीं आता, तो बोलेगा भाई मैं रिस्पॉन्सिबिलिटी नहीं देता, मैं एग्री नहीं करता, डिसएग्रीमेंट ऑफ ओपिनियन एंड ही विल इशू द सेपरेट ऑडिट रिपोर्ट. दैट्स इट. ओके. Clear? Very good. Okay, so if you have any queries, you can anyways reach out to me on my WhatsApp number, on Telegram, on our Telegram group. All the details have been given in the description box. Take care of yourself. I would wait for your comments on this particular revision sessions and we'll meet tomorrow for your company audit chapter. Okay, company audit chapter or chapter number 3, we'll disclose that. Let's consider it to be the surprise. Okay. So you can revise your company audit chapter. We'll have that company audit itself. Okay, in 1 hour we'll finish off entire company audit. So please be prepared. Please revise the company audit chapter entirely before 9 p.m. of tomorrow, because we'll meet at 9 p.m. tomorrow to revise the company audit in just 1 hour along with the Caro 2016. Okay, so I hope you guys are absolutely clear. Take care of yourself. Be positive, be confident. We'll meet tomorrow. Have a great night. Okay, all the best. Take care. Bye bye. Good night.